Hey guys, good morning. Dr. Sean here. I hope Christmas was good to all of you. I'm going to kind of go through a little something here today. Every now and then I feel like I have to take on the role of watchdog. And when I see something that I find alarming, I want to make sure I get it out there to all of you. And this is something that's alarming to me. And we talk all the time that we are revolutionizing healthcare. We're taking healthcare back. We are teaching people how to be healthy, how not to be sick, how to get your life back. And, I think everything has a role and a place. I'm not anti-medicine by any means, and you all know this if you've seen me over the years. I'm not. I think that it has a definite place. It has some wonderful, wonderful things that it does. But there's some concerns sometimes. Greed is something that it's hard to get past. And it's something that we see in every facet of life from one form or another. And healthcare is no exception to this. And, I look at things that when they're alarming, I think I have to share them. And so I'm going to kind of show you what happened here over the Christmas break. Every year, Congress likes to shove things through right at the very end. And our current president's last little act or last hurrah was to shove through something called the 21st Century Cures Act. Now, on the surface, it sounds amazing. We're going to donate $1.8 billion to cancer research and finally finding a cure. And we're going to donate another $1 billion to opioid addictions and heroin addictions and other addictive meds and trying to help people cure past those. Those are great things. When this came to the forefront, I thought, okay, wow, they're going to try and do something good here. But like every bill that ever gets put out there, people start tagging things on. And you have to kind of follow the trail. Where did this come from? Did President Obama sit down one day and decide, you know what, I'm going to write a Cures Act? Probably not, right? Probably not. Not a doctor, doesn't know a whole hell of a lot about medicine. So I'd think to myself, all right, where did it come from? Well, then you start following the paper trail. And fortunately, because of our Freedom of Information Act, paper trails are pretty easy to follow anymore. This is a drug-funded lobbying effort. The drug industry, the medical device industry, all got together and said, hey, wouldn't it be really good if we could put out a Cures Act? And on the surface, it's going to look amazing to the population. We're going to think, man, they're stepping up. We're getting something for this. But when we dig a little deeper and we see what's really on the back end of this padded bill, then we get into a little bit of an alarming situation. Now, it blew through the Senate almost unanimously. It blew through the House of Representatives at the early part of the year. It sat all year long until the very end, and then whoosh, overnight, they rush it through. So let's look at what it is. Okay, let's really tear it apart. And I'm doing this because I saw how they pushed it through, how they got senators on board. They took dying children and said, my God, look at these kids. They're dying. They're suffering. They're miserable. And they're only doing it because we are too slow in FDA approval for drugs and medical devices and researchers that could be saving lives. There are experimental treatments out there that need to get to market to help save the children. Isn't that kind of how they always do it? It's always the children. Save the children. Now, I wholeheartedly try to help children. I love them. I think it's great. Do everything you can to help them. But there's more to this. They pushed it this way. They use our heartstrings and they tug at them and think, gosh, if you want to save the children, we'll push this through. But here's what came with this. This is what we're getting out of this little deal. The bill actually is a very pro-industry bill, pro-big pharma, pro-medical device bill. It's going to relax the FDA standards. Now, what does that mean for us? And why am I even doing this video? Because as of this next year coming up, no longer will you need large, randomized, controlled human studies. We don't need them anymore. They take too long. That's what they're saying. Too much time's wasted. We need to be able to just get out there and get this to the population. Do you know why we do these studies? Do you know why we have large controlled studies? So we don't have massive side effects. We don't have massive issues that were unpredicted. Well, as of this year, no more. Now they can use what they call observational data. It will suffice. That means, well, we're going to watch it. And they don't need large controlled studies any longer. They can do small clinical trials, 8, 10, 12 people instead of 100,000. Can you see a problem with this? If we're not going to test the drugs any longer, we're not going to test the medications, we're not going to test the medical devices to see if they're safe long term, we're just going to push them out there. See a problem with that? It gets worse. They're now getting what they call breakthrough medical device approval, and they're going to be expedited. They don't have to wait. We need this. Oh my God, we got to have this for the hip. Push it in. Now, if you guys are like me and you watch television at all, every day between pretty much 10 in the morning and 5 o'clock at night, you can't watch a commercial where there's not some law firm suing some company either for medical device flaws or drug interactions or something like that. And that's stuff that was passed through the FDA. Can you imagine if we speed it all up? Get rid of all the safety standards. We don't need this stuff. Get it to the population, right? It's in their best interest. Antibiotics can now be approved without large clinical trials. Throw it in there. We need it. Got to have it. Throw it in there. They're going to allow what they call surrogate endpoints to evaluate a drug's effectiveness. Now, what does that really mean? It's all confused. Surrogate. Sounds crazy. Let's use cancer. They do it a lot in tumors and cancer work. A surrogate endpoint means we made a drug. We can't prove that it improves your life or your quality of life. It extends your life at all, but man, it shrinks the tumor. But you still die. The side effects are horrific. And you didn't get rid of the problem. But because of surrogate endpoints, it works. Well, now guess what? They can do that with all their meds. We don't need to prove that it actually does anything long term. We just have to show that it has an effect. Go drink a bunch of olive oil. Drink a gallon of it. I will guarantee the effect will be you sitting in that toilet nauseated for a day. That's all I got to do. It's a little scary, guys. Now let's look at vaccines. Some people like them, some people don't. They no longer have to study them. They no longer have to have big clinical trials. They can just make you do them. And here's the problem I have. If you're suffering from a chronic disease, debilitating, you're in-stage cancer, and someone comes to you with an experimental therapy that's never been tried or proven, it's just somebody's idea. That's what experimental therapy means, by the way. It's someone's idea that, man, if we chew rocks, we might get rid of our tumor. I think it'll work. Try it. That's what they mean by this. There's no clinical efficacy to this. So now they're telling you that if you're in that situation and you choose to do that therapy, that's your choice. That's what makes us great in this country. We have that choice. But on some things we don't. So when you look at vaccines, it's a great example. We don't have that choice. And this new rule that has basically made the FDA useless is saying not only do you not have that choice, we can force experimental things that we have not tested on you, and you have no recourse. You can't go back after the drug manufacturer. We're stripping that away from you. So you're right to sue them in case something goes dramatically wrong. Gone. That's your 21st Century Cures Act. It's taking away all of the studying, the clinical trials, all the validity behind science, if there is one. It's taking all of that away under the guise that we're going to rush things through. We're going to make you healthier. We're going to try and do this. It makes medicine risky. It makes medicine dangerous. I've spent my entire career trying to help people regain their lives. I've spent my entire career fighting an uphill battle against the current dogma that overruns our healthcare system. So when I tell you that we are revolutionizing healthcare, I'm not kidding. Guys, we have to. You have to take back your own care. You cannot be a sheep. You cannot be a lamb to the slaughter and just go with the herd. At some point, you have to educate yourself. Now, there are shams out there, and there are all these weird little things. There always will be. But there are also tried and true methods that humanity has been using for centuries to battle everyday wear and tear, to battle chronic degenerative things. And the 21st Century Cures Act is not that. Please pay attention to it. Look at the effect that it could have long term. Take back your own health. I know this is kind of soapboxish and lectury, but man, it's important. I'm Dr. Sean. Have a great year.